Archangel Michael says, "This is your last chance. The precious hours of grace are drawing close, and heaven itself leans toward you with a message that carries the fragrance of divine love, the strength of eternal mercy, and the light of holy hope, calling you to listen deeply because every word whispered in your heart today has the power to plant seeds that will grow into blessings that reshape your journey forever, and angels stand near you, eager to lift your burdens and walk with you into a life that shines with the peace and strength of God." Type 999 if you trust Jesus with all your heart. The voice of heaven comes gently yet firmly, reminding you that every moment is a gift wrapped in divine purpose, and though the hours pass swiftly like the setting sun, God's love remains constant, steady, and unshaken, reaching into your soul with healing that softens your pain, with comfort that wraps around your weary heart, and with strength that allows you to stand when the world has left you trembling in silence. For His promise is not to abandon but to restore, not to break but to build, not to wound but to heal. Subscribe to this channel if you are grateful for God's mercy. As the hours slip away, imagine the angels surrounding you like a circle of light, holding you with tender hands that guard you from despair, and carrying prayers from your heart into the throne room of heaven, where God receives every cry, every unspoken word, and every hidden longing with care deeper than oceans and wider than the skies, reminding you that you are never alone, never forgotten, and never beyond the reach of His endless compassion that waits patiently for your surrender. This message is not a voice of fear but of promise, not a shadow of punishment but a river of mercy, because God does not seek to burden your soul but to set it free from chains of regret, to draw you out of storms that have kept you captive, and to invite you into a shelter where His light never fades, where His love never runs dry, and where your weary spirit can finally breathe again without the weight of yesterday pressing upon your heart. Type 1313 to affirm strength through the Lord. When life has brought you moments of pain that left scars upon your soul, when the nights felt long and silent with no answer to your prayers, heaven now whispers that your cries were not in vain, because every tear you shed was seen, every sigh was recorded, and every struggle was cradled in the hands of the Lord who transforms sorrow into strength, despair into hope, and weakness into a testimony of His power that cannot be shaken by any storm of this earth. The angels do not stand idle, they lean close with wings stretched wide to guard your steps, to whisper encouragement into your thoughts, and to remind you that you are chosen, treasured, and loved beyond measure, not because of what you have done but because of who God is, and He is love itself, unending and eternal, calling you to open your heart to the gentle flow of His Spirit that washes away fear and fills you with a peace that cannot be stolen. Think of the quiet moments when you have longed for a sign, a word, a reminder that heaven is near, and know that this message is that very gift, a gentle knocking on the door of your soul, a sacred invitation to step into a new chapter, one not ruled by anxiety or regret, but one guided by faith that carries you into healing, into new beginnings, and into blessings that were prepared for you long before you could imagine them, blessings that are waiting now to unfold as you surrender to the love of Christ. The hours are precious, the call is urgent, yet the tone of heaven remains tender, for urgency does not mean harshness, but rather a reminder that time is sacred and should not be wasted in fear or hesitation, for God's mercy is waiting to embrace you now, not tomorrow, not when the world feels safer, but in this very moment, because the love of the Father never delays, never falters, and never fails. It simply waits for you to turn and let it heal you. Type 1212 if you know God is guiding your steps. Even now, as you read these words, imagine the gentle touch of Christ upon your shoulder, the warmth of His presence surrounding you, and the calm assurance that your story is not over, that new chapters filled with healing and joy are unfolding, and that what once was broken will be restored, because the one who holds your life is the author of hope, the giver of peace, and the keeper of every promise whispered through eternity, and He will not let you go. Stay until the end, for this message was chosen to remind you that you are not alone. This is not the end of your journey but the beginning of something far greater, a turning point written by heaven, a sacred hour when your soul awakens to truth, when your spirit rises from the ashes of despair, and when angels gather close to sing over you with joy because you have chosen to listen, to believe, and to embrace the love of God that is reaching for you now, carrying you into a tomorrow filled with strength, comfort, and the eternal light of His holy presence. Archangel Michael says, "The hour is holy and the call from heaven grows stronger, for this is not just a fleeting message but a divine moment written into the fabric of your life, where the mercy of God and the love of Christ reach out like gentle streams flowing into dry places, reviving your spirit and filling you with a comfort so deep that the heaviness of your heart begins to soften, reminding you that you are seen, valued, and carried in ways you may not have realized until now." As you let these words rest within you, imagine the hands of heaven stretching toward your weary soul, pulling you away from the edges of despair, leading you away from the places where shadows threaten to silence your hope, and guiding you into the light where peace dwells, where wounds begin to close, and where strength grows like new blossoms after a long winter, for God is not finished with you and His plans are filled with life that is yet to unfold. Every second of this precious time has been entrusted to you as a gift, and though the world may press you with distractions, fear, and doubts that attempt to cloud your faith, the presence of angels remains steady, standing as guardians over your path, whispering reminders that love will always be stronger than sorrow, that light will always outshine darkness, and that the grace of God is greater than any weight you have carried across your journey. Type 1010 to affirm that God's timing is perfect. The moments you thought were wasted, the prayers you believed were unanswered, and the tears you cried in silence have all been gathered into the eternal heart of God, who wastes nothing and loses no cry, who transforms broken pieces into testimonies of healing, and who is ready to turn the pages of your life into stories filled with joy, redemption, and new beginnings that carry the fragrance of His endless compassion. Close your eyes and picture the heavens above opening with gentle light that pours over your life, not with judgment but with kindness, not with condemnation but with mercy, for the Lord delights not in your downfall but in your rising, not in your fear but in your courage, not in your pain but in your healing, and He longs for you to taste the sweetness of His presence that makes every burden lighter, every scar softer, and every day brighter with renewed purpose. The angels that surround you today are not silent watchers but messengers of comfort, carrying God's love to every corner of your life, wrapping you in unseen arms when you feel alone, and guiding your steps when the road ahead feels uncertain, reminding you again and again that no matter what the clock says, no matter how urgent the call may feel, the love of God is always timely, always present, and always more than enough to carry you through. There is a holy beauty in knowing that this very moment is not ordinary but set apart, chosen for you to hear words that bring warmth into cold places of your heart, and as you listen, you begin to sense a quiet strength stirring within, a reminder that even though storms have raged and seasons have tested you, the roots of your faith remain alive, nourished by the eternal love of Christ, and ready to blossom into joy that cannot be taken away. Think of the gentle way a sunrise paints the horizon, slowly yet surely dispelling the darkness of night, and let that picture rest upon your spirit, because God's love works in the same way, not rushing but steady, not harsh but tender, bringing light to every corner of your being until the shadows fade, and you are left standing in the warmth of His care, held firmly by a love that will not let go even when your own strength falters. Type 1111 if you believe heaven is listening. You are not forgotten in the vastness of the universe, not lost in the endless turning of days, because the Creator who formed the stars also formed your soul with care, breathed life into you with purpose, and chose this moment as a sacred reminder that heaven knows your name, heaven hears your cries, and heaven is ready to fill your life with the kind of peace that surpasses all understanding, the kind of peace that keeps you steady no matter the storm. So let this be your moment of surrender, not into fear but into love, not into despair but into trust, because as you lean into the arms of God, you will find that the heaviness you carried begins to lift, the doubts that haunted you begin to fade, and the hope you thought was lost begins to return, stronger and brighter than before, because His love restores, His mercy renews, and His presence will walk with you into a tomorrow filled with blessing, healing, and holy strength. Archangel Michael says, "The sacred call continues to echo within your spirit, carrying the voice of heaven that longs for you to understand the depth of God's love, the endless patience of His mercy, and the quiet strength that He pours into your life when you open your heart, because even when the world grows heavy and the hours feel uncertain, His presence does not fade, His promises do not break, and His love never withdraws from the soul that chooses to listen and believe." This holy moment is not random, it is written with purpose, designed to reach you at a time when you may have felt weary, forgotten, or left behind, yet heaven knew the exact moment when your heart would be ready to receive a word that lifts, a whisper that heals, and a reminder that your life still carries meaning, that your journey still holds hope, and that your story is still unfolding under the care of a God who never lets go. The hours of your life may at times feel like grains of sand slipping through your hands, yet within the eternal hands of the Father, no moment is wasted, no day is forgotten, and no prayer is ignored, for He gathers every detail, weaving even the hardest moments into a design greater than your eyes can see, and while you may not always understand the reasons for your struggles, you can rest in the assurance that He is still working, still guiding, and still shaping your life into something filled with beauty. Type Amen if you believe in God's endless mercy. When you feel the weight of doubt pressing against your faith, remember that angels walk beside you, unseen yet powerful, steady yet gentle, carrying messages of encouragement from the throne of God, reminding you that faith does not mean you will never feel fear, but that love will always rise stronger than fear, that hope will always outlast despair, and that the light of Christ will always overcome even the darkest nights of the soul. The invitation of heaven is not to burden you but to free you, not to weigh you down but to lift you higher, into a place where your heart no longer beats with anxiety but with peace, where your mind no longer spins with worry but with clarity, and where your spirit no longer hides in shadows but rests in the light of God's presence, where healing is possible, where joy returns, and where love restores what has been broken within you. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a gentle breeze moving across a quiet field, carrying with it the fragrance of flowers blooming after a storm, and let that image settle within you, because that is how God's love moves through your soul, softly yet surely, bringing new life to the places you thought were barren, bringing peace to the places where unrest once ruled, and bringing strength to the corners of your spirit that felt fragile and tired. The message of heaven today is clear and tender: you are not forgotten, you are not overlooked, and you are not abandoned, for the same God who formed the stars with His word has spoken life into you, chosen you with intention, and surrounds you with angels who carry His care into every step you take. And though your journey may not have been easy, the love of Christ remains the constant anchor that steadies you when everything else feels unsteady. There is a quiet miracle happening even now, though you may not see it fully, for the Spirit of God moves in ways that are gentle yet powerful, working within your heart to restore hope, stirring within your soul to awaken faith, and breathing into your life a sense of new beginnings, so that when you look ahead, you no longer see only fear and uncertainty, but you begin to sense the possibility of peace, healing, and joy rising like the dawn. The call to listen is not about pressure but about promise, not about fear but about love, because heaven is not warning you to scare you but to remind you that your life holds value too precious to waste in sorrow, that your heart holds potential too sacred to lose in despair, and that your soul holds a future too beautiful to ignore, for God's plans are not to leave you broken but to see you whole, not to see you weak but to make you strong, not to see you lost but to lead you home into His arms. Type 2222 to open the door to new blessings. So let your heart open now, let your spirit breathe deeply of the presence that surrounds you, and let the gentle assurance of Christ fill every part of you, because the message has reached you not by chance but by design, and as you listen, you begin to realize that heaven has always been close, angels have always been near, and the love of God has always been steady, waiting for you to lean into it fully, so that your tomorrow may shine brighter than every shadow of yesterday. Archangel Michael says, "The gentle yet urgent whisper of heaven grows stronger with each moment that passes, for this is not simply a message to be heard with your ears but one to be carried into the deepest places of your soul, where pain has hidden, where fears have lingered, and where wounds have long cried out for healing, because God desires to fill those empty spaces with His presence, His peace, and His unshakable love that does not fade when storms rage or when shadows fall heavy upon your heart." The nearness of angels surrounds you like a soft light wrapping every corner of your being, and though you cannot see them with your natural eyes, you can feel their presence in the way comfort begins to rise where sorrow once dwelt, in the way courage begins to stir where fear had its grip, and in the way peace begins to grow where unrest once ruled, because they carry with them the fragrance of heaven, reminding you again and again that God's love is steady, eternal, and reaching you now with arms wide open. Every moment that unfolds before you is sacred, and though the world may measure time by hours and days, heaven measures it by grace, and right now grace is overflowing toward you like a river that cannot be stopped, flowing into the cracks of your heart, softening the hardened places, and bringing refreshment where your spirit felt dry. For this is the kindness of God, that He meets you exactly where you are and never waits for you to be perfect before He pours His mercy into your life. There is a holy beauty in the way God weaves hope into despair, light into darkness, and healing into brokenness, and as you listen to this message, you can begin to sense the shift within, as if the weight of yesterday is beginning to loosen its hold, and the possibility of a brighter tomorrow is starting to break through, because the Lord delights not in leaving you behind but in drawing you forward, carrying you through storms, and setting your feet upon paths that are filled with peace and promise. Type 2121 if you trust God's plan for your life. The angels stand ready not only to protect but to guide, to whisper gentle encouragement into your spirit, and to remind you that the voice of heaven is not harsh but tender, not condemning but inviting, calling you closer to the heart of God who longs to embrace you, to steady you, and to assure you that your story is not over, that your prayers have not been ignored, and that your tears have not been wasted. For everything you have carried has been seen, and everything you have lost will be restored in His perfect time. Picture for a moment the way sunlight breaks through heavy clouds after a storm, sending beams of warmth across the earth, and let that image rest within your soul, because that is how God's love arrives, breaking through the heaviness, pouring warmth into the coldest places, and reminding you that no storm is permanent, no darkness is eternal, and no night is stronger than the dawn, for His love is the light that cannot be overcome, and His presence is the shelter that never fails. Though the hours may feel short and the call may feel urgent, this is not a burden but a gift, a holy invitation for you to rest in the truth that you are cherished, that your life is valuable, and that your future holds more than pain, because heaven has already prepared blessings you have not yet seen, doors you have not yet opened, and healing you have not yet experienced. And all of it waits for you as you lean into the love that is being poured out right now upon your spirit. The Father's heart beats for you with a tenderness that cannot be measured, a patience that cannot be exhausted, and a compassion that cannot be limited, and as you let His presence draw near, you begin to realize that the voices of fear, doubt, and despair lose their power, because there is no fear stronger than His love, no wound deeper than His mercy, and no sorrow heavier than His joy. And everything within you begins to align with the truth that you are not forsaken but chosen, not forgotten but treasured. Let these words be like a gentle song over your soul, a melody that reassures you when the world feels loud and heavy, a hymn that lifts you when you feel weary, and a reminder that heaven itself is closer than you think, not distant or unreachable, but near, leaning into your life, waiting to show you the beauty of a tomorrow where your steps are lighter, your heart is steadier, and your spirit is filled with the assurance that you are walking in the love of God. So as this part of the message draws to a close, let your heart rest in the truth that you are held in arms that will never let you fall, carried by love that will never fade, and surrounded by angels who will never leave your side, for this is the promise of heaven to you in this very hour, that your life is not forgotten, your story is not finished, and your tomorrow is waiting to shine with the light of Christ, guiding you into peace, into healing, and into hope everlasting. Type 2020 to embrace joy and strength in Christ. Archangel Michael says, "The call of heaven still surrounds you like a gentle stream flowing through the valleys of your soul, reaching into places that have long felt dry and forgotten, and carrying with it the promise that your life is not meant to remain in the shadows of sorrow, for the love of God is pouring over you now with healing, renewal, and strength that cannot be stolen by the storms of this world. And the angels are ready to lift you higher into the light of peace that endures forever. The mercy of God does not arrive as a sudden demand but as a tender embrace, wrapping itself around your heart with patience and care, and reminding you that no mistake is too great, no wound is too deep, and no loss is too heavy to be restored in His presence, for His hands are strong enough to rebuild what was broken and gentle enough to comfort what was wounded. And His love moves with such sweetness that it restores hope even in the places where hope seemed to have vanished long ago. Think for a moment about the times when you felt alone, when the silence of the night pressed upon you like a weight, and when your prayers seemed unanswered, and remember now that heaven was never deaf to your cries, for angels were surrounding you in those moments, carrying your tears into the hands of the Father, who has always been weaving a greater story, one that may not always be seen immediately but is always filled with His purpose, His goodness, and His unfailing care. The urgency of this hour is not meant to frighten you but to awaken you, to remind you that every moment is precious and filled with opportunity, that life is too sacred to be wasted in despair, and that God is offering you a path of restoration, a road of healing, and a future of hope, where your burdens can be laid down, where your fears can be silenced, and where your soul can finally breathe in the fullness of His peace, which flows like a river and never runs dry. The angels stand near with eyes of compassion and hearts of loyalty, guarding your steps and guiding your thoughts, whispering to you that you are not walking through your struggles alone, that even when others could not understand your pain, heaven understood, and even when you felt unseen by the world, you were never unseen by the Creator who formed you with care, breathed life into you with purpose, and continues to walk beside you with love that never falters. As you rest in these words, let yourself picture a vast sky filled with stars, each one shining with steady light against the dark, and let that vision remind you that God's promises are as countless and steady as those stars, shining even in your darkest hours, never fading, never leaving, and always pointing you toward the truth that His love is stronger than every trial, and His hand is guiding you into a future brighter than the fears that try to hold you back. Type 3030 if you believe Jesus lives in your heart. Your life has meaning greater than what you have seen so far, and even if the road behind you has been marked by pain, disappointment, or broken dreams, the path ahead carries a new song, a song of renewal written by the hand of God, a song of peace sung by angels over your life, and a song of strength rising from within your spirit as you begin to let go of fear and hold firmly to the truth that heaven is with you now, reshaping your journey with hope. The voice of heaven today is like a gentle hand upon your shoulder, steadying you when you feel unsteady, guiding you when the path feels unclear, and comforting you when your spirit feels weary. And though you may not know exactly what tomorrow holds, you can be assured that the one who holds tomorrow also holds you, and His plans are not for harm but for good, not for despair but for joy, not for emptiness but for fullness of life in His presence. So let this be the hour when your heart awakens to the beauty of God's love in a deeper way, when you choose to release the burdens that weigh you down, and when you embrace the truth that your story is not defined by your past but by His grace, not shaped by your failures but by His mercy, and not held by your fears but by His promises, for He is the one who writes new beginnings, and He is doing so even now within the chapters of your life. And as you carry these words forward, may your spirit be wrapped in peace that settles like a gentle blanket over your heart. May your steps feel lighter with every reminder of His presence, and may you know beyond all doubt that the angels stand near, ready to walk with you, ready to protect you, and ready to celebrate with you as heaven's light continues to break through, changing your sorrow into joy and your weakness into a testimony of the strength of God's unending love. Archangel Michael says, "The stream of heaven's message flows unbroken, carrying within it the fragrance of divine peace, the strength of eternal love, and the promise that your life, no matter how heavy the past has been, is being touched even now by hands that never fail. For God Himself is near, and the angels that stand around you are not silent but active, lifting, guiding, and guarding you as the light of His presence continues to grow brighter within your spirit." The love of the Lord has no limit. It does not fade when mistakes are made, it does not weaken when storms arise, and it does not turn away when burdens become too great. For His love is steadfast like a mountain that cannot be moved, like a river that cannot be dried, and like the sky that cannot be measured. And when you allow this love to surround you, you begin to sense a peace that steadies your trembling heart and renews your weary soul. Type Amen to trust God's plan for your life. This is a sacred hour where the heavens bend low toward the earth, where grace flows like rain upon dry ground, and where the voice of God calls gently yet clearly, reminding you that you were never meant to carry your struggles alone, that your pain was never unseen, and that your journey was never without purpose, because even in the hardest nights, the Lord was near, and even in the longest valleys, His presence never left your side, though you may not always have felt it. The angels that walk beside you are messengers of hope, carrying with them the assurance that no shadow can last forever, no chain can remain unbroken, and no sorrow can silence the song of heaven that is being sung over you, a song that whispers into your spirit that you are chosen, that you are loved, and that your life holds meaning far beyond what you have yet seen. For God has written chapters ahead of you that will shine brighter than any pain behind you. Picture for a moment a field that has been barren through a long winter, cold and lifeless, yet suddenly touched by spring, and watch in your heart how flowers begin to rise from the soil, how color returns to the earth, and how warmth fills the air again, because that is what the love of Christ is doing in your life, turning seasons of emptiness into seasons of growth, turning despair into hope, and turning silence into songs of joy that carry you forward. Every tear you have shed has been caught, every prayer you have spoken has been heard, and every sigh of your soul has been held in the heart of God, who does not forget, who does not dismiss, and who does not ignore the cries of His children, but who bends low to listen, to comfort, and to respond with mercy that is greater than your fears and with healing that runs deeper than your wounds. And this very moment is proof that His care has never left you. Do not think that your story has reached its end, because the Lord delights in new beginnings, and even when the path ahead seems uncertain, His hand is steady, writing over your life with grace, guiding your steps with purpose, and filling your days with hope that rises stronger than every doubt. For His plans are not to break you but to build you, not to leave you empty but to fill you, not to leave you wandering but to guide you into peace everlasting. The urgency of this call is simply a reminder of how deeply you are loved, how valuable your life is, and how precious every moment can be when surrendered into His care, because heaven does not want you to live bound by fear or sorrow, but to awaken into the fullness of God's presence, where healing becomes real, where joy becomes steady, and where peace becomes the anchor that keeps you strong no matter what storms may rise around you. Type 111 if you believe miracles are near. The angels rejoice even now as you lean closer to the truth of these words, for they know that every time a heart opens to God's love, heaven sings, and every time a soul chooses hope instead of despair, light fills the earth more brightly, and every time faith rises stronger within you, chains that once held you begin to fall away, and freedom takes their place, leading you into a life that reflects the beauty of Christ's eternal care. So let your spirit rest in this truth: you are not abandoned, you are not invisible, and you are not without hope, because the same God who paints the skies with sunrise has chosen to paint your life with new beginnings. The same God who holds the oceans in his hands holds your future with care, and the same God who commands angels to guard you will not leave you, for his love has always been with you and will remain with you through every step, guiding you into healing, light, and everlasting peace. Archangel Michael says, "The tender voice of heaven continues to reach into the depths of your heart, speaking not with fear but with love, not with judgment but with mercy, and not with condemnation but with hope, because the Lord who created you has never turned his eyes away from you, and the angels who surround your life are standing near, ready to guide you into a season where light replaces darkness, where peace silences turmoil, and where joy begins to blossom again within your spirit." This sacred moment is like a doorway standing open before you, and though the world may seem uncertain, the voice of heaven calls you gently forward, reminding you that every burden can be lifted, every wound can be healed, and every sorrow can be transformed, because the love of God is not bound by time, not limited by circumstance, and not weakened by hardship, but it moves like a river that flows steadily, reaching every corner of your being, filling you with strength you did not know you had. The message does not come to weigh you down but to lift you higher, to remind you that you are chosen, that you are loved, and that you are never beyond the reach of grace, for no matter how far you have wandered or how heavy the road has been, the Lord has always walked with you, even in silence, even in pain, even in confusion, holding your life with a love so steady that nothing in this world can separate you from his care. The angels stand watch like guardians of light, protecting you in ways you cannot see, guiding your steps even when the path feels hidden, and whispering to you in moments of stillness that you are not forgotten, that the weight you carry does not define you, and that the storms you face cannot destroy the eternal hope that has been placed within you, for your life is written with a purpose greater than your fears, and your story is shaped by a God who delights in restoration. Imagine the horizon as the sun begins to rise, the darkness slowly giving way to light, the cold giving way to warmth, and the silence giving way to song, and let that vision settle into your heart, because that is what God is doing within you now, bringing dawn into your night, hope into your despair, and peace into your turmoil, showing you that no darkness is final and no night is eternal when his love is present. The urgency of this message is not meant to frighten you but to awaken your heart to the beauty that still lies ahead, for time is a treasure and every moment carries an invitation to draw closer to the one who heals, to the one who strengthens, and to the one who restores. And even though life may have left scars upon your soul, Heaven assures you that scars are not the end of your story but the evidence of survival. The evidence that God has carried you through and will continue to do so. Type 2020 to claim joy and strength. The mercy of the Father reaches you in the gentlest way, like soft rain falling upon dry soil, nourishing what seemed barren, reviving what seemed dead, and awakening what seemed lost, because His love does not come to condemn but to renew, not to destroy but to rebuild, not to silence but to bring forth a song, and your heart is being prepared even now to sing again, to rise again, and to live again in the fullness of His peace. Every step you take from this moment forward can be different, not because the world suddenly changes, but because your spirit begins to change as you receive the truth that you are deeply loved, that you are forever held, and that you are continually surrounded by angels who carry your prayers into the heart of God, who listens with compassion, who answers with kindness, and who guides with wisdom far beyond your understanding. Let these words rest upon you like a warm blanket after a long cold night, soothing your fears, calming your thoughts, and reminding you that you are safe in the presence of God, who does not abandon His children but carries them, who does not grow weary of their cries but listens with care, and who does not let go of their hands but holds them firmly, guiding them into light, into healing, and into the beauty of a future that is already prepared in His love. So stand in this moment with peace in your heart, for you are not standing alone, you are held by love that never fades, you are guarded by angels who never rest, and you are guided by a God whose mercy has no end, and as you walk forward, may you carry with you the unshakable truth that heaven has chosen to speak to you now because your life matters, your soul is precious, and your future is filled with hope that will shine brighter than every shadow that has ever touched you. Archangel Michael says, "The stream of heavenly love flows with even greater depth as the message continues, wrapping itself around your spirit like a soft cloak that warms the coldest corners of your heart, and reminding you that no matter what trials have marked your past or what uncertainties stand before you, the hand of God is steady, the love of Christ is eternal, and the presence of angels is near, calling you to rest in a peace that does not falter and in a hope that does not end." The hours that pass may feel fragile and fleeting, yet within the heart of the Lord every moment is sacred, every second is filled with purpose, and every breath carries the opportunity to draw closer to His light, to release the weight of sorrow, and to step into the freedom of His mercy, which moves with tenderness, surrounds you with compassion, and holds you so carefully that even the deepest wounds of your soul can begin to heal beneath His gentle touch. Type 888 to open doors of abundance. There is a holy tenderness in this message, for heaven is not pressing you with fear but embracing you with love, not forcing you with burden but inviting you with grace, and not pulling you with demand but leading you with kindness, because the Father who created you longs not to see you broken but to see you whole, not to see you hopeless but to see you filled with courage, and not to see you silenced by despair but to hear your spirit rise again with joy. The angels who surround you are not distant, they are close, bending toward your life with care, guarding you when shadows draw near, and guiding you when the path seems unclear, and though you may not feel their wings or hear their voices, their presence is steady and sure, and their mission is to remind you through every whisper that God's love is closer than your breath, stronger than your fears, and more faithful than every disappointment that has ever weighed you down. Picture the gentle rhythm of waves meeting the shore, again and again, steady and unbroken, and let that image remind you of God's love, because no matter how far you drift, no matter how strong the tide of fear may seem, His love continues to return, to surround, and to steady you, never giving up, never retreating, and never ceasing, until your soul is anchored firmly in the truth that you are treasured beyond measure and carried beyond weakness. This moment carries the fragrance of new beginnings, and though the past may echo with pain, the future sings with promise, for the Lord does not allow sorrow to have the final word, but instead writes redemption into your story, turning your trials into testimonies, your wounds into wisdom, and your struggles into stepping stones that lift you closer to His presence, where joy begins to bloom and peace begins to grow stronger than every shadow. The urgency of heaven's call is simply a reminder that the time for hope is now, the time for healing is now, and the time for peace is now, for you are not meant to wait for another season to be loved, another day to be cherished, or another hour to be seen, because you are already loved, already cherished, and already seen, and God's mercy is present in this very breath, waiting only for your heart to open so it can flood into every space of your life. The Spirit of God moves gently but powerfully, stirring within you courage you did not know you had, awakening in you faith you thought was lost, and placing in your heart the quiet assurance that no matter what the road ahead may hold, you will not walk it alone, for heaven will walk with you, angels will guard you, and Christ Himself will guide you step by step into light that grows brighter with each passing day. So let this part of the message be like a lamp placed within your soul, shining steadily when the night feels long, reminding you that you are safe in the love of the Lord, that you are wrapped in the protection of angels, and that you are guided by a hand that has never failed, for His love does not grow weary, His mercy does not run dry, and His promises do not fade, but they remain eternal, carrying you into a tomorrow where healing, hope, and joy will rise. And as you carry these words, may you sense the presence of heaven not as a distant thought but as a reality surrounding you now, lifting your heart, quieting your fears, and assuring you that your life is woven with meaning far beyond what you can see, a meaning written by a God who loves you without limit, guarded by angels who stand close with devotion, and sealed with a promise that your soul will always be carried in the eternal embrace of His care. Type 1010 if you trust in God's timing. Archangel Michael says, "The sacred stream of heaven's message continues to flow, carrying into your soul the reassurance that you are not walking through this life unseen, for the Father's eyes have never left you, His hands have never released you, and His love has never ceased to surround you, even in the times when you felt most alone, most broken, and most uncertain about the days ahead." The urgency of this call is not to bring fear but to awaken your spirit to the beauty of what is being offered to you now, because heaven desires to lift you out of despair, to breathe life into the weary places of your soul, and to open your heart to the peace that cannot be shaken, for the love of Christ is not fleeting like the promises of the world but steady like the foundations of eternity. And when you rest in it, your soul finds an anchor that no storm can move. There is a tenderness in the way God approaches you, for He does not push with force but draws with compassion, He does not strike with judgment but heals with kindness, and He does not abandon in anger but restores in mercy, and as His Spirit moves around you now, it is gently loosening the chains of fear, gently lifting the weight of sorrow, and gently awakening the courage that has long been waiting to rise again within you. The angels that walk beside you do so with unwavering loyalty, protecting you when you do not realize it, guiding you when your path feels hidden, and whispering truth into your heart when lies of despair attempt to steal your hope. And though their voices may not be heard in human words, their presence is unmistakable, felt in the sudden peace that calms your spirit, in the strength that rises when you thought you had none left, and in the comfort that arrives at just the right time. Picture in your heart a candle glowing in the darkness, steady and unwavering despite the winds that blow against it, and let that image remind you of the Spirit of God within you, for though trials may surround you, His light will not go out, His love will not retreat, and His mercy will not grow weary, but they will remain steadfast, guarding your spirit and guiding you into the assurance that you are deeply cherished by the One who created you. The love of Christ is not limited by the mistakes you have made or the moments when you felt unworthy, because His love was never built upon your perfection but upon His grace, and His grace is strong enough to cover every failure, wide enough to embrace every weakness, and deep enough to heal every wound. And when you let it reach you, you begin to understand that your worth was never in question, because in the eyes of heaven you have always been priceless. The call of this moment is to remind you that your story is still unfolding, that your journey is not finished, and that your tomorrow holds more than what you have seen so far, because God is a God of new beginnings, and He delights in taking what was broken and making it whole, in taking what was lost and making it found, and in taking what was barren and making it bloom with life, joy, and peace that surpasses all understanding. Even now, as you let these words settle into your spirit, the peace of heaven is drawing nearer, softening the anxious thoughts that weighed on your mind, lifting the burdens that pressed upon your shoulders, and filling you with the quiet assurance that you are not alone. For heaven has bent low to meet you in this very hour, to remind you that your cries have been heard, your tears have been seen, and your life has always been held in hands that will never let you go. Let your heart rest in this truth. The hours that pass are not slipping away into nothingness but are carrying you closer to the fulfillment of God's promises, closer to the unfolding of His plan, and closer to the joy that has been prepared for you since the beginning of time. And though you may have walked through valleys of shadow, the light that now rises before you is greater than the darkness behind you. For the love of Christ is eternal and unbreakable. So step into this moment with courage, for you are not stepping alone. You are stepping with heaven surrounding you, with angels guiding you, and with God Himself holding you. And as you move forward, may your spirit be filled with hope that grows stronger each day, with peace that carries you through every storm, and with love that never fades, for this is the gift of heaven to you, and it is yours to embrace now and forever. Archangel Michael says, "The gentle current of heaven's voice flows even more deeply now, reminding you that this sacred hour is not to be overlooked, for within it rests the assurance that the Lord's love has always been steadfast, His mercy has always been patient, and His presence has always been near, even in the seasons when you felt hidden beneath shadows or silenced by the weight of sorrow that seemed too heavy to bear." The call of heaven is not a cry meant to frighten your heart but a song meant to awaken it, a holy invitation to step out of despair and into peace, to move away from fear and into courage, and to rise from weariness into renewal, because God's love is not fragile or temporary but everlasting, stretching far beyond what you can see and holding your life with a strength that nothing can undo. No matter what trials have touched you or what wounds have scarred your past, the angels of the Lord gather around you as protectors and comforters, standing close with wings of light that shield your spirit from harm, and though you may not see them with your eyes, their presence is real, and their nearness is felt in every moment when you suddenly sense strength returning, peace settling, or hope rising, for they are the messengers of God's love, assigned to remind you that you are never forsaken, never forgotten, and never beyond the reach of His endless care. There is a sacred truth woven into this message, that every trial you have faced, every tear you have cried, and every silence you have endured was not wasted, for the Lord has been gathering each one like precious drops of water, storing them in His heart and turning them into rivers of blessing that will flow back into your life in ways greater than you have imagined. And though your spirit may have felt weary, heaven now whispers that renewal is already beginning within you.